August 23rd, 2023, Rhode Island Turnpike and Bridge Authority. First item on the agenda is public comment.
We have a guest today, Barry Freeman, who is Executive Director of Bike Newport.
It's always nice to see you guys.
Yes. So Barry would like to present to us.
Good.
Yeah.
Sit here.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
What's best for everyone?
Yeah.
You want to just pull my chair?
I'll tell you what, you can have my chair, I'll sit
Oh,
over
that's
there.
okay.
Oh, there you go.
Stay right. Thank you, just so you can see. Thank you so much. I'm Barry Freeman, Executive Director of Bike Newport. I'm also a colleague of Lori's on the Transportation Advisory Committee for many years. And I'm here to share updates, thoughts about bicycle access on the three bridges, Pell Verrazano and Mount Hope. Updates, my comments to cover all three take about 5 minutes. Is that acceptable?
It's
Okay,
yours.
thank you so much. So and I do have it written down, so I don't miss anything. Thank you for inviting me, of course, and I hope this will be the first of many discussions and collaborations to make progress. For general context, I wanted to add to the encouragement to optimize funding and design in service to all by considering bridge improvements holistically. For example, when we're addressing suicide prevention, we should consider bicycle and pedestrian access at the same time. Even if staged in phases, the design will be prepared for those improvements. Also, Rhode Island state law, Complete Streets, applies to all roads except those where use is prohibited by law, in which case all road users need to be considered when any repairs or improvements are made. We have three bridges connecting to Aquidneck Island. There is a compelling case for adding bicycle and pedestrian access to our bridges, very briefly summarized in 4 points. First, bridges and overpasses built for all modes of travel provide continuity of access and prevent significant detours for bicyclists. Second, people who can use bicycles for transportation and recreation are happier, healthier, and more productive at work and school. Third, 60% of the population want to ride bicycles but don't because they are afraid to ride on the road with cars. And fourth, shifting people out of cars more frequently will dramatically reduce traffic congestion and carbon emissions. Overly simplified, but broadly and collectively the case for bicycles. We have interesting, if challenging, situations to address regarding bicycle access to 3 of the 4 bridges that connect Aquidneck and Connecticut Islands here in mainland. On the Jamestown Verrazano Bridge, we have the most compelling case and arguably the easiest solutions. We have the space and the case on the Jamestown Bridge. In fact, it was designed to include bike lanes. It was in the STIP to add bike lanes. A decision was made to redirect those funds to a different bike project without discussion. We have to back up and have that discussion and process. On the Newport Pell Bridge, I'm happy to report that Bike Newport's congressionally directed spending project for a comprehensive feasibility study for cycle and pedestrian access and observation to the Claiborne, Pell, and Jamestown Verrazano bridges is included in the Transportation HUD Subcommittee's spending bill package. The Senate Appropriations Committee recently approved the bill to move forward in the budgetary process. This is not yet a commitment of funds. It is yet another step in the budgetary process. Senator Whitehouse is continuing to support this project to be included in the final project, and we look forward to working with you to optimize this study process once funded. The Mount Hope Bridge has been accessible by bicycle, including signs on the bridge and indications on all state and regional maps authored by the Rhode Island Department of Transportation. Recently, a sign was placed indicating that bikes are prohibited. As far as we can determine, there was no legislative discussion or decision to change this status. We need to address the sign, the road conditions, and improvements to safety. Current conditions are terrible, with no shoulder and no room for passing a bicycle. The sign stating that bicycles are prohibited further compromises cyclist safety by suggesting that they are riding illegally and empowering aggressive drivers to be more threatening. In addition to removing the sign, we can and should take immediate steps to improve safety for people who are biking across the Mount Hope Bridge. We've done a bit of research to give some best practice context to our recommendations, which I've shared. I don't know if you want to pass that around. I'm not going to go through this point by point, but it is some research related to best practice context to our recommendations, I'd like to share 3 ways that similar bridges have addressed similar challenges. The first is the active beacon warning to make things safer by alerting cars to bikes in the roadway. A lighted sign, cyclists on bridge, is triggered by push button or by passive detection, both entering and exiting. The cost is a mere $15,000 to $30,000. The Nelson Bridge in British Columbia, which is covered in that document, is the most comparable example, as it also has only 2 lanes for vehicles. The second recommendation is a shuttle service, which is highly recommended, requires no bridge modification, and serves all kinds of riders, including those who would not ride across the bridge even with the beacon. However, we don't have a transit system that is healthy enough to prioritize this addition. We don't have sufficient routes, schedules, or shelters to serve the current demand, let alone add a new service. Also, we don't have the protected bike lanes on either side of the bridge at this point. So in the immediate, the beacon is consistent with levels of separation and safety on either side, and likely our best solution, along with some needed roadbed improvements. Long term, on the Mount Hope Bridge, we're probably looking at cantilevered side path. It's exciting to plan forward to this separated infrastructure leading up to, over, and onward from the bridge. Many historic bridges have been adapted for multimodal access. New materials offer high strength with significantly less weight. In conclusion, I'd like to share 3 recent statements by bridge riders. First is an email I received from a gentleman named Chris. He's new to the area, living in Portsmouth, working in Bristol. He reached out to me about bridge access and promised me a report after he wrote it. His report read this way. Hey, good morning. This isn't going to be the answer you want, but I don't think bicycles should be allowed on that bridge. First of all, it's very narrow, there's no shoulder. Second of all, the roadbed is a mess with potholes and expansion joints every few feet. Third, there's a very high curb but no rails, so if you were to hit a pothole, if a rider were to lose control or get bumped by a car, there would be no opportunity to jump up onto that narrow walkway. I've been riding for 40 years on both road and mountain bikes, and I would not ride across this bridge. I also received an email from the RISD architect, Michael Brugel, the architect professor who was responsible for converting the student-inspired designs and well-informed designs of Crossing the Pell, which many of you might have seen at the Old Colony House last year. He converted those into the virtual reality experience that many of you experienced. And he said, I hope an immediate solution for safe crossing the Mount Hope can be found, for example, by implementing your idea of adaptive signage. That's the beacon I referred to. For the longer term, it would be wonderful to at least be allowed to generate and propose visions which put the concerns of RITBA, as well as sustainable and healthy mobility, into account. Aquidneck Island deserves better bike connections. In fact, all of Rhode Island does. Fingers crossed for the next steps with Pell and Jamestown, too. It's a wonderful state to explore by bicycles, but in many cases, that's neither safe enough nor pleasant enough, especially for inexperienced new riders. One thing seems certain: as soon as people are given bike paths, they appreciate and use them. It seems like a no-brainer to create them. And lastly is my experience. I've ridden across hundreds of bridges of all kinds in this country and in other countries. I've had the experience of being yelled at in Rhode Island, blared at by whizzing 18-wheelers in Georgia and Florida, and also patiently allowed to cross safely in the wildly windy Rhone Valley in France. Bridges have presented me with both excellent and terrifying experiences. I far prefer excellent to terrifying, but we need them to get where we're going. And a bridge just can't stop us from getting there if a bicycle is our transportation. It's our job as transportation specialists to consider Chris and everyone who uses our roads in our planning for safe passage. And Rhode Island strives for excellence, not terror. So there are questions that we can prepare for and address together. Among them, how to make bikes safer on the Mount Hope Bridge immediately and also in the future. There are 2 different questions. We should invite conversation with people who ride regularly for the immediate address and people who would like to ride for the future address, the future vision. The Verrazano is now. We can start with low-hanging fruit and easily connect Connecticut. What other questions are there to ask? What are your concerns? And how can we help to prepare for the discussion?
Thank you very much. All right, well, thank you for that presentation. I'm sure we'll take
what you said into consideration, as well as the handout that you provided the members.
Yes, very much available for any thoughts, ideas, questions, discussions, and I hope to be invited back perhaps as an agenda item.
You're always welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barry.
Thank you, Lori.
See you tomorrow night.
See you tomorrow.
Anything else? Under public comment, I'd just like to say something. I'd like to compliment you and staff for a job well done, keeping things so.
Thank you.
Yeah, what a nice job.
More than me.
That's why I said your entire staff, so thank you for that. Yeah. Okay, next is,
Just make
yes.
sure anyone else in public comment.
I'm Samara Hockey, I'm from Rolling Agenda, which is Jamestown's bike advocacy group, so.
Oh, would you like to add to,
Pardon?
would you like to add?
I mean, I support everything Barry said. Rolling Agenda is hoping to put forth a proposal in the future for a temporary bike lane on the Jamestown-Verrazano Bridge, just as a trial run for maybe a 1 week period. So that's something we will to present.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Next item is to approve the minutes of the June 20th, 2023 meeting. Do we have a motion? Motion by Karen, seconded by Darrell. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Next is discussion on contract 19-6, additional funds for AET toll collection system implementation.
We're requesting a budget supplement for consulting services for Stantec under contract 19-6 for the all-electronic toll consulting services in an amount not to exceed $64,200. In July 2021, Stantec was awarded the original contract for $249,853. The supplemental funds are needed as Stantec supported Ribbon to conduct a full second procurement of this once we decided that we weren't able to award it during the first time around. In addition to the full second procurement, so that took up an additional 5 months of our time. That was not originally planned for. In addition to that, Stantec's original estimate included reviewing 3 bids, and we actually received 4 bids both times around. We wanted to also make sure at the time RIDOT was still tolling that their ICD, their control document, that data was still flowing correctly, so we did make some adjustments for the second procurement for that as well. And the second time around, the total costs were reduced by most of the vendors by up to $865,000. RIPA was also not pleased with the prices that we got the first time around. The work, I also just wanted to make a comment, has not yet begun. Stantec originally submitted this proposal in June 2023, and if you notice on the last page, it said the work was to begin 8/1. That was for the July board meeting that we didn't have, so it was delayed, so they have not yet begun the work.
Questions?
I do. So Stantec will be providing the technical expertise for your assessment of the proposed work, right?
For the
project?
design implementation as well as the testing once we go live.
Okay, but Turnpike and Bridge staff will be supervising and overseeing it?
Yes.
Okay,
We
great,
have an in-house lane technician as well.
great.
Further questions or discussion? Hearing none, do I have a motion to award the contract to Syntec as proposed?
Second.
Motion, seconded, discussion, hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Next is the Secana River Evans Avenue Bridge loading rate.
Sure, I'll take that one.
Thank you, Eric.
Last August, we approved the board approved the task order with Majeski and Masters in the amount not to exceed $87,777. This was for load rating both the Secana River and Evans Avenue bridges. Load ratings are required to be done every years maximum, or sooner if things change structurally or something else changes on the bridge that could cause a change of load rating. In this case, it was a timing issue. Secana River hadn't been load rated since it was constructed in 2012, being a brand new bridge at the time. And during the load rating, M&M discovered several unanticipated issues, some of it due to a modernization of the load rating manual since the construction of the bridge, but also they found an as-built condition of the bridge that they had to work through that had to do with internal bracing. Long story short, it took many iterations of calculations to work through these design connections and try to get the bridge to rate such that we do not have to post the bridge for anything less than legal loads in the state of Rhode Island, including the Rhode Island loads that are added to the load rating chart. In doing so, M&M incurred additional costs. They worked at risk, quite frankly, doing these extra analyses. In the end, they submitted a supplemental request, which is in the amount of $53,639. This was after they went through and were reallocating unused funds from certain portions, partly from Evans Ave Bridge, towards their work on the Secana River Bridge. It's not an ideal situation for sure, because now they're asking for approval of funds that they've already expended. They did not bring this to our attention until the work was completed. So I've had a conversation with M&M, basically saying, listen, we understand that the work was necessary. I think it's justifiable based on their supplemental request, but they're asking for approval after the work was done, which is not what we do here. So I've instructed them that while I am going to recommend approval of the funds, that we can't let this happen in the future, that any future work has to be brought to our attention, any extra work before it's performed. And so that we have the opportunity to bring it forward to the board to say, we need some prior approval of the funds. You'll see this applies to the next item as well. M&M was working on both the load ratings of Secana River Bridge and of the Mount Hope Bridge in the next item concurrently, and ran into similar issues, and I'll get into that in the next item. But with that said, I do recommend approval of the funds. Like I said, the work was justifiable, the work was good work, and in the end, we got the bridge to a rate without having to post the bridge, and the report is now on record. So.
I'll just make a comment. I agree with your assessment. I was concerned because they proceeded without proper authority, but I just happen to know that you have taken them to task in writing that it's unacceptable. The work was good, but they slipped up on keeping up with the hours. So I'm in favor of it, but I'm glad Eric did what he did.
Okay.
What was the amount of the original contract?
$87,777.
And this is asking for another 54,000, 53,600.
Yes.
Okay. The uncontrollable circumstances that they came upon that prompted the additional work. You mentioned that part of it was a change of law, right? A change of regulatory
there was a
standards.
modification to the load rating manual since the bridge was built, which also affected Mount Hope.
Were they in effect before they took the contract to do the work?
The load rating manual
Yes.
changes? Yes.
They
Yes.
were.
Yeah.
The additional bracing that you mentioned, was that separate from the regulatory change, or was it part of the regulatory change that required that additional bracing?
The issue with the bracing, come to find out, was an issue with the original design that did not consider, there's a two-bolt connection in the cross bracing, which has to do with placement of the concrete deck. Bracing of the steel tubs before the concrete deck is poured. That was not considered in the original design, but it came up in the load rating as a condition that could cause an overstress.
So was it the regulatory change that prompted the need for the additional bracing, or was the additional bracing a design fault in the original?
That design fault was not due to the change in the load rating manual.
Okay, so have you followed through and done a bit of research whether or not we have recourse from the original designer of that bridge to be able to make a claim for the cost, the additional cost of this work.
Have we? No,
Yeah.
we haven't.
Would you consider that?
We could look into it.
Would you
We
please?
could look into it.
Would you? More frequently during the last 8 years, we've been holding our designers to task on errors and omissions in their original design and require them to pay the cost of any changes during construction or thereafter that may arise out of their errors or omissions. It might be helpful to talk to some of our PM folks about how we proceed with those to see if maybe there's a claim. It could be too long after the fact. I don't know if there's a statute of limitation on design fault, but maybe worth looking into.
You're absolutely correct. There could be a complication because they did the design for DOT at the time.
Yes.
And now we're.
Doesn't matter.
So it could be,
State or-
so I agree, there could be some funky thing going, you know.
If we have to be the conduit for that claim, albeit, you
Yeah.
know. So speak with our folks and we'll follow through.
Yeah,
We
sure.
may not be able to, but from a statute standpoint, but worth a look.
Okay,
Okay.
absolutely.
Question?
Just curious, have we worked with this company before and have we had overages like this before?
Majeski?
Yeah.
This, from what I can find out, they did a bridge inspection on Newport Bridge several years back. I have not worked with them, and I don't believe that the folks working on this project had necessarily done work for us. It so happened that when they got awarded these two contracts, they ended up running into these issues. As you'll see on Mount Hope as well, to a lesser dollar amount, but to a greater degree. So.
Okay.
Any other questions? We have a motion, second discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, next item, again, Aaron.
Yes, so again, this was a task order originally approved with Majeski and Masters to load rate Mount Hope Bridge in the amount not to exceed $358,937. The bridge is quite complex to load rate, given that there's several structure types going across. This was purely a case of a new load rating manual affecting the bridge. It was not an original design flaw. However, what they discovered in this case was that the original design of the main girders was the condition. It wasn't an issue of deterioration of the main girders, but the original design configuration of the main girders, when applied to the new load rating manual, created a condition of lateral torsional buckling. I know I've discussed this with the board while this issue was going on, but it was a similar condition where M&M continued to do their work to get through this issue and get the bridge so that we didn't have to, well, we ended up posting, but we didn't have to post it in a drastic manner. In the end, they looked back at their costs, submitted a supplemental request. It was 2 days, within 2 days of the one for Secana. Their amount in this case was for $18,670.94. And again, you know, we had the same conversation with them with both bridges about keeping track of their expenses and submitting them and giving us proper notice to get prior approval. But I again did look at the justification, and I do recommend approval of their additional amount in this case.
Motion.
Sorry. In both cases, how did we make out with the load rating on the Secana?
So on Secana, they were able to run several iterations by theoretically eliminating some of these cross braces from the analysis, and eventually they got all of the legal loads to rate with a factor above 1.
Okay.
So no posting required on that. We basically are in the same load carrying capacity as we were prior to the rating. So
But with the additional bracing? or without it?
No, they
Even
actually
without-
took, they actually took the bracing out theoretically. And they were able to make some assumptions because, again, the bracing is required prior to placement of the concrete deck. Once the concrete deck is placed, it creates the lateral stabilization of the tubs.
Gotcha.
That's required.
Yeah.
What they recommended is that for the future, if we were going to plan on removing the deck at any point, that we go back and look at these cross braces
Cross braces.
and make retrofits accordingly prior to the removal of the deck. We concurred with their recommendation that it's reasonable to proceed with the load rating capacity as
So
it is now. As
status-
there's no plans to remove the deck. in the
Status
foreseeable
quo with
future.
the rating on that
Correct.
bridge. How about Mount Hope?
Mount Hope ended up becoming a posting for 36 tons for 6 axles or more, which is a very, in speaking with Bob Rockwell and several other folks, it's a very infrequent vehicle. I think the highest frequency that they had in their traffic counts was 1 per day.
Oh, okay.
So
What's the diversion for that, do you know?
they would have to take Secana River Bridge or other means, but they wouldn't be able to
Okay.
open Mount Hope.
All right.
Outside of that, it had no other effect. The other thing that we had Majeski look at as part of the due diligence was what could a retrofit of the main girder entail? The analysis basically came up with a couple of options, both extremely costly, and when we looked at it quickly internally, we said
One truck.
1 truck per day, possibly, which isn't
Gotcha.
even necessarily the case. It just wasn't. There's no return.
Cost
on investment.
effectiveness.
It's not
Great.
cost effective.
Thank you.
So-
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Motion. We have a motion, second, discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Okay, Eric, you're up again.
All right, so this is the biannual routine inspection of Newport Hall Bridge and Structure E, which is adjacent to it over here, which has East Shore Road traveling under it. We went out for quotes with 7 of our pre-qualified on-call infrastructure professional services consultants. 4 consultants responded with pricing ranging from $725,349 to $1,118,827. The lowest quote came in from Jacobs Engineering Group, and they have not performed this load rating on this particular structure, but they certainly have done it on similar structures nationwide. They're a very well qualified and large consulting firm. We did a review of their proposal. It's very thorough. It's attached to this board packet. And in the end, we're recommending that we move forward with an approval of their task order in the amount of $725,349 to have them inspect the structure. Just wanted to note that WSP has been doing the inspections for nearly the last 20 years, with the exception of one instance by Majeski and Masters. This will be an entirely fresh look at the bridge, which, quite frankly, I'm welcoming at this point, and I'm happy that that we received this quote. So,
Move to approve?
Motion, seconded, discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, the ayes
Aye.
have it. Next is the Tiverton Fishing Pier sinkhole repair.
yes. So we were alerted by our maintenance staff, who make regular inspections of the underneath of Secana River Bridge, the fishing pier area and whatnot, that there was a few cones around. I believe actually somebody from your staff was down there, or it could have been DEM, noticed a hole in the asphalt adjacent to the ramp, and adjacent to a wall which abuts the bay right there, the passageway. And we went down, we did some further inspection, looking into the hole, it looked like there was some sidings due to a drain pipe which runs underneath this area. I asked Frank to have our staff go out and pour some water in the hole, do something very simple, and look and see if it comes through the pipe joint, which it did. So we put out a quick quote to do some repair, which will entail excavation above this, cut the asphalt, excavate the hole, and basically encapsulate the seams of the pipe, and then backfill it, patch it. We ended up with only one quote. It was by Deandra Construction Company, and it was in the amount of $27,450. We called several of the others and asked why they didn't quote it, and they basically said it was a bit small, they weren't in the area. The Amber happens to be right in the area, they're doing some nearby road work for the town of Tiverton. So this made sense that they quoted the repair. We looked at the quote and we think that it's a reasonable quote. We'd like to ask for approval of it, but also add a contingency in the amount not to, this is an internal contingency, in the amount not to exceed $5,000, just in case they run into some unforeseen condition out there that we need to ask them to perform extra work on. So the total ask is that you approve a total project budget of $32,450 to make the repair.
So moved.
Motion seconded, discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you. Okay. Next is the safety measure feasibility study report, Pell and Secana River Bridges.
Sure. So currently we have Atkins under task order to do a safety barrier feasibility study for Mount Hope Bridge and Jamestown Horizontal Bridge. The General Assembly was able to secure funds in order for us to do a similar analysis on Newport Pell and Secana River Bridge. So we had previously gone out to RFQ, selected Atkins, and the RFQ did include these other bridges, so we were okay to go ahead and ask them to do a task order proposal for these two bridges. They did so, and it's a very similar study to the current two bridges. It came in a little bit less because there is some efficiencies that are afforded by the fact that they're already working for us. Their final proposal was for $889,946. We reviewed this. We had been in discussions during the development of this proposal. This was the final amount that they submitted, and we feel that it's a reasonable amount based on the amount that they're spending on the first two and the savings that we're seeing here. So we'd like to recommend approval of this. The state secured $750,000 of funds, and we would supplement the additional amount to get the study done.
So this is almost $1 million just on two bridges to study so you can imagine what the construction costs are going to be. What is the scope of the study? Will they be telling us if the bridge is suitable, what kind of barrier is allowed on these suspension bridges, and are they going to do some cost analysis also?
All of the above.
Great.
Correct.
Okay.
They'll do a structural analysis on the suspension bridges for each study. It involves not a formal wind tunnel test, but a wind study. For instance, on Mount Hope, they went out and they have a sub-consultant that went out and did vibration testing on the suspender ropes.
Yeah.
So going through a full structural analysis to include
Gotcha.
all the wind loading. That will determine, number one, can any barrier be put on the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And then if so, they'll develop a matrix of barrier types that can be considered, and they're looking at similar bridges and other studies across the nation. And in the end, they'll select 2 or 3 appropriate ones to bring to further study, which is really looking into wind analysis, loading, structural loading of the bridge, and then order of magnitude costs.
Cost estimate for each
Right.
for each of
Each
the
of the
alternatives.
bridges.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I have concern about the the supplement from the authority. I'm just concerned that the toll payers, this is a statewide issue. This is not just a toll payer issue for our customers. So I'm a little concerned about using money from the Turnpike and Bridge Authority to supplement this study. All the other money, I think we had requested more money from the legislature, and this is what came out, and this is very generous on the part of the legislature. But I'm just concerned that if it sets a precedent for us Turnpike and Bridge spending toll funds on matters such as this that are really a statewide issue.
Where would the funding come from? Additional funds?
So if I could start and then refer to Jeff, because we've focused on this. We've also discussed this with our bond counsel, because this is an issue, and we want to make certain that we make the correct decisions. The the state has, they gave us $1 million the session before last. Then they gave us $750,000 this time, so now we have all 4 bridges covered. So they've given us, and they're asking us to supplement with, or, we would need, given the amount that Atkins has come in at 890, we would need to roughly give them provide another $140,000. So it's not unreasonable for us to look at our funds, because it's critical to us that anything that's put on these bridges be feasible, number one, that it does not affect the integrity of the bridges to do what they're supposed to do, which is to carry vehicular traffic across these bridges and back safely. So it's certainly the purpose of using funds that are our funds is a legitimate purpose, because we need to make certain that anything that may be proposed in terms of some kind of a netting or some other kind of safety barrier doesn't affect the integrity. That said, the question then becomes of our sources of funds, which would be the most appropriate. We've had those discussions with bond counsel. Obviously, there's gas tax revenue, there is toll revenue, there's bond revenue, we have looked at those and will make the decision as to which of those is most appropriate. I think we are appreciative of the fact that the General Assembly found us $1 million the first year and $750,000 the second year, so that we could cover all 4 of these bridges. Again, coming back to the idea that we have to supplement with 140, it seems to me is the right thing to do, given what our mission is, to protect these bridges. When it comes to which of those funds will support, that's going to be a question we have to look at. I mean, the toll revenue bonds are devoted to the system. The system is the Pell Bridge and the Mount Hope Bridge. Gas tax has, we have more ability to use gas tax for operational needs here. And so, Jeff, if I've missed anything, we're very much attuned to that question. We're focused on where that money would come from, and we'll take it from the most appropriate source.
I tend to agree with the director. The sources and uses of the money, while you assert that it is a statewide issue, it is a statewide issue. But so are the bridges. The bridges are here to support the statewide economy, and they're supported in part, as the director said, by general gas tax, which is a statewide revenue stream into the authority. So at least 1.5, I think some of the bond repayment comes from revenue from the gas tax, right? Mm-hmm. So at least 2 out of the 3 sources of revenue that the director mentioned are statewide funding mechanisms, not particular to the toll payer. So, you're going to deliberate, I take it, on which of those sources are the proper ones to use.
Yes.
Is that correct? Fine. So that's a statewide funding mechanism. Yep.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And my concern, and I just like to be on record as being concerned that this, for the feasibility study, I agree, seems to be appropriate, but I don't think future expenditures from the capital funds would be an appropriate use.
Well, I think the magnitude of the capital funds are going to be such that you'll probably be looking for grants to do that work, and those will be federal grants, which is a general.
I just wanted to be on record as noting my concern about setting a precedent for using the funds of the authority for those purposes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
great.
So will you please note that in the official minutes, Peter's concern.
Move to approve.
Okay. We have a motion. Do I have a second? Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you. Next is the suspension bridge lighting.
So the suspension bridge lighting is, each year, Frank is here, so I'm looking over at Frank, because every year Frank and I have the discussion of what are we gonna do in terms of lighting the bridges red, white, and blue. Most of the year, the bridges have the white necklace on both the two suspension bridges, and we make decisions. It comes up every year. This year, we talked about the fact that there is a cost associated with changing the lights from white to red, white, and blue, and back again. That cost to do both bridges and change them and then change them back, and when we decide, is a little over. It's $3,000 and change. We do use it for an outside contractor, as supplemented by Frank and at least one member of our maintenance crew. I know that you know that the Secundit River Bridge is automated. We receive requests for the Secundit River Bridge about lighting the bridge certain colors to acknowledge a certain cause, breast cancer, for instance, or some other cause, and we receive those and we act on those, and that's an automated system, and we're able to just program it for certain days for the Secundit River Bridge to honor a particular cause. We cannot do that with the Newport Pell, and we cannot do that with the Mount Hope Bridge. In fact, if you saw it, they do it the old-fashioned way. They have backpacks that have blue light bulbs, and they have backpacks with red light bulbs, and they go out and one by one they change those light bulbs. So this year when Frank came to me and said, "What shall we do?" It seemed like people needed a little bit of a patriotic boost around Memorial Day, and we said, let's light them up red, white, and blue for Memorial Day, and then we said, well, we're going to be doing it again for the July 4th, and we said, why don't we just call July the month of the patriotic month, and we'll go Memorial Day through July, and that will that will minimize the cost of switching back and forth, so that's what we did. So I will say, I do want to acknowledge that you never have a unanimous response. It's been an overwhelmingly positive response. Many of the members of this board have come to me, many other people have come to me to say the compliments they got, they were very pleased. There are some people who would love to see it red, white, and blue all year round. We tend to think that takes away from the specialness. When you do flip from the white necklace to red, white, and blue for the summer, so we weren't inclined to do that. I will acknowledge that we've received correspondence from a few people and comments from a few people who did not like the red, white, and blue, and were anxious to have it come back to white. They had photography plans, and we're waiting for the white lights to return. So what we thought is, instead of making this decision every year, we'd have this come before the board so that you could all decide. So our proposal, given the cost, etc., is that every year we agree that we'll change the two suspension bridges from white to red, white, and blue from Memorial Day through the month of July. And that includes, obviously, that honors the 4th of July, and it lets people get back to their photography if they're interested in the white necklaces in the month of August. And that would, then Frank and I don't have to talk every year. Although Frank, talking with him and making decisions with him is always a pleasure. But we thought it would be nice to have some consistency.
Yeah. Well, as a Quinnipiac resident, I know that it's been received very well. And I also, having been in Eric's seat years ago, everybody and their brother wanted separate days and separate this. So I think it's appropriate that it be a board decision, that's policy that's set, and that you can lean on that and go from there. So I will vote for approval.
I have a question. So the lights are incandescent lights that you have to swap on?
LEDs. They're LED lights.
What kind?
LED.
Oh, they're LED? Have you thought about at some point maybe making modifications to have a controller put on?
So Mount Hope's was, we talked about Mount Hope.
Yeah.
When we were doing the dehumidification project. If
Yeah.
we could throw something like that in, it was the tune of $750,000.
Imagine that.
Oh, I imagine.
Yeah.
So as part of the dehumidification project that's ongoing for Mount Hope, that is one of the elements we are still going to look at to see what can we do, because.
Right.
And it'll apply to this, because now we have the grant that
Yeah.
includes dehumidification
Right.
of Newport. And to dehumidify, you have to strip everything off the cable, including the wrappings. Well, that's a perfect time, because the necklace lights have to come off anyways, because they're attached to the outside of the cable.
Oh, it does?
The necklace lights have to come apart as part of this dehumidification project on both bridges. So that's the perfect opportunity to at least consider
Yeah.
some sort of programmable system, depending on the cost.
Yeah.
And, you know, can we justify it? If not, the least we're gonna do is look at upgrading to the most recent LED type system. You know, whether that will make Frank and his folks' job any easier or not, I'm not sure, but we'll at least have upgraded lighting one way or another.
Well, you
It would
know-
be ideal to have programmable.
Well, it would, and I don't know if there's a pathway for you to, that picture is great, by the way.
That's really good.
If there would be a pathway for, on special occasions, if certain groups wanted certain colors, if there would be a fee associated with that, that could help over the years offset the cost of doing it. Is that possible even to do?
You're speaking my language.
You might have your cost justification built in, you know, so that's a great idea. Great idea. Nice. Second the motion.
Second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you. Next, CBA 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think I read last night that UPS settled their labor differences, which is great news for everyone, and so did we. So we negotiated a new 3-year collective bargaining agreement with the United Service and Allied Workers of Rhode Island. And they represent our maintenance employees, our traffic management technicians, and our image review clerks. They voted on it yesterday, and they approved it, so it is coming before us. The wage increases are 3%, 2.5%, 2.5%. We did our homework. We did look to make certain that that was in line with other public and quasi-public contracts. There were operational changes that also, in my opinion, you know, some of them may have been requested by us or proposed by the union. In my opinion, all of the things that we negotiated will benefit both parties. For instance, they wanted more of a clothing allowance. We want our employees to present to look good to the public. It's warranted. It can only help for them to have some, you know, nice. Sometimes it gets a little chilly in here, Frank, and so some of the employees in the traffic management department, for instance, would sometimes want to wear, you know, another layer. So to have everybody looking good when we bring the CODEL in or when we bring state officials in is nice. So we think that these terms are reasonable. As you know, I have negotiated this contract for years. Now that I'm here as executive director, Jeff and our HR manager, Ali Tasso, and I negotiated this with the team from the union. We did send it out to Bill O'Gara to say, Bill, does this look okay? And Bill said, good deal for...
Better deal than I negotiated last week, so.
So,
Great.
we'd ask that you ratify.
Motion?
Motion approved.
Motion made, seconded, discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by
Aye.
saying aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Good job, Cory.
Yes,
Thank you.
very nice. Lease of fiber on the bridges.
Yep, I'll take that. So I'm requesting approval to move forward to negotiate a lease for fiber on the Newport Hell and Monmouth Bridge. Instead of leasing the fiber for a negotiated sum, we would receive services that are currently costing the authority between $50,000 and $90,000 a year. Cox Communications is providing those services today. The name of the company is Ocean, but it's spelled O-S-H-E-A-N. People call it Ocean. They do work with a lot of municipalities, schools. In fact, we work with them in REMA to bring fiber into our data center so that REMA now has their cameras utilizing fiber, as before was done, I believe, by cell. Microwave. So right now, I'm just looking for approval to move forward to negotiate. Of course, if we come to an agreement on a lease, I bring it back to the board for,
Question?
yes.
This gives the operation and maintenance of the fiber optics to this company, is that correct? How does that work?
So they would lease the fiber, we would maintain, right now, actually, it's interesting because the fiber that they would use on Mount Hope Bridge, if anything was to go wrong, that is on Verizon to
Okay.
correct. For the fiber here, that would be our responsibility. But it's brand new fiber that was just put in as opposed to Mount Hope, which has 22-year-old fiber and conduits.
Does it restrict the users of the high-speed internet on the other side, on the island side, to negotiating with this company for the rights to use that?
Correct.
Hmm.
They're
Do you have
primarily
a
using,
sen- yeah.
they're primarily using it for redundancy because they already they have the underwater. So they have an underwater here and they have.
They being the users on Quidnet
Ocean.
Ocean.
Ocean. So this is primarily for redundancy purposes for them.
Do you have a sense on, and any regulation on the rates that they charge people on the island for the use of the fiber optic cable?
I do not know that. I know about a year ago, we utilized Bill and a sub that they, CBRE, to make sure that the lease rates for our fiber were done at market value. And actually, the value we would get from this is twice the value of if we were to straight out.
I get that. My only concern is giving the ability to a private company for the use of our cable, and allowing them to make a profit from that. That, you know, could affect the economy of the businesses on the island. And I'm wondering what kind of oversight or control we have on that to make sure that the pass-through of the costs are being appropriately in scale with the profit that they're making from the users on the island. They have a captive audience there. And many of them pretty high priced with companies like Raytheon and the Underwater Systems Lab and all of Naval War College, all users of high-speed internet. If they become the conduit for that service, you know, the lack of competition breeds a bit of, you know, cost increases.
Well, who has it now? Who has that?
Right now, nobody's using our fiber. Verizon has their own fiber going over.
You said this would be redundant to what they already have.
This would be for their redundancy because they already have it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if it affect the rate.
I don't know.
As an Aquatic Islander, I appreciate your thinking.
I don't know. I mean, you know, fiber optics, and high-speed internet is a considerably valuable resource for the kinds of companies that are going to be there, particularly now with the new area that'll be open for development, depending upon what companies could be attracted there. My only concern is that, you know, we're providing a single source through this company, and that we have some moderate controls over their surcharges that they put on this to the end users.
So Jeff, they're not looking to lease all of our fiber.
No, they're
right?
looking
So
for
there are other
12
fibers
strands.
available to other companies.
There are
Yeah.
Oh, many more.
Yeah, we have
that
a
we
lot of fiber.
would be able to provide as a state to those companies
Correct.
coming in.
The competitors, right.
And we've had multiple companies that Jeff and I have worked, you know, with that have come inquiring about availability.
Yep.
So we've got capacity to be able to entertain these throughout the
So
first.
you could do a Verizon, a Crown Castle.
Sure.
We've been in touch with Crown Castle, i3 Broadband. They're doing their analysis right now. So on Mount Hope, we have 144 strands. They want 12, so we have plenty available.
Yeah.
And on Newport, what do we have, 47, we have 2 tranches.
We have 48 new and 144 of 22-year-old, which is still.
That's
you know,
plenty.
So you guys.
That if a company wanted to provide their own direct service, we would make those lines available.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We have spare conduits also.
Yeah.
Correct.
What's that, Frank?
We have spare conduits also, if they want to run their own.
Right, we've had other firms even interested in running their own conduits and
Yeah.
fiber across the bridge, which we've had discussions.
So that would provide the competition
Good.
easily.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Next is the,
We
Do we vote?
on that
Approve
one?
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, make a motion.
Motion, second, discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Yes. Next, the new automated tolling.
Yeah.
design.
I'll take that one. Lori may jump in at some point here. So in the past, we have shown you a presentation lengthier than what's attached to the board package of potential architectural design for the new toll gantry that will be included in the AET project, which is actually currently out to bid, by the way. The structural part of the toll gantry is designed, set in the plans that are out to bid currently. We have omitted the architectural treatments of the gantry from the bid so that we can move it forward while we have some more decisions on what the gantry will ultimately look like. Newport Collaborative Architects is a sub to WSP. They are the ones who developed many of the ideas. What we've included in this packet are 2 of the basic concepts that we would like the board to consider, which include the nautical flag flicker, so-called option, which Lori brought a model that they had done for us originally, and the other one was a colored theme, which includes color schemes of the current bridge and neighboring the ocean, etc. That includes both daytime and nighttime renderings of what it could look like. Lori's bringing in the nautical flag model now. What we're recommending is that the board vote to proceed with design of an implementation of the gantry concept that features the colors of the Pell Bridge and the ocean between these 2 concepts.
So, since you had seen at another meeting this model, we've had some discussions, and we've had overwhelming response. Everyone likes these models. I think that the staff here feels that even though this is awesome, and we've had a number of you have told me that you thought this was awesome, and it is. We're concerned that it distracts from what we want people to do, which is safely drive over the bridge. I mean, this spells out in nautical flag alphabet, welcome to Newport. It also, the fins down the side, say Newport. And this was just genius as far as I'm concerned, an exhibit of talent, because when the architects took the concept of a curve and knew that people would be driving around a curve, and they put this in so that as it straightens out, you stop seeing Newport. That said, we do think that the one that reflects the colors of the bridge, the silver, the blue of the water, the green that's the trim on the buildings, it also has the fins, and I think it will be, we only have a model of this nautical flag one, but I think that if we, we're going to have a drive, I forget what WSP calls it, but an actual, a driving
Simulation.
demonstration,
Yeah.
a simulation of what it will look like, and it will also incorporate the fins so it really, in your package, it is it's the pages that have the colors, and they actually look different at night. But that seems to be the more appropriate one for driving purposes, for making certain that people that aren't trying to decipher welcome to Newport, or, I mean, this is a work of art, it's absolutely beautiful, maybe it belongs somewhere. We also, the other thing is the fact that it says anything. We have also, the consensus among the staff is that we really would like to keep a gantry doing what a gantry is supposed to do, which is collect tolls. It's not supposed to say anything, it's not a plaza, it just collects tolls. We probably will use what we call the Art Deco sign that's on the existing plaza. We will probably use that here on the property, maybe outside this building, displayed with landscaping. But in the meantime, we are asking the board to allow us to proceed with the version of this gantry, which reflects the colors of the bridge and the water. And that's our recommendation. We think it's still going to be beautiful, and maybe not quite as jazzy as the nautical flags, but still beautiful.
So with that, and even though it's boring, I make a motion to approve the staff's recommendation.
I second the boring motion.
We're all in favor?
Yeah.
Our work is done for the day.
Yeah.
Almost.
Okay, capital project.
Sure, I'll run through these fairly quickly. As I just mentioned, the Phase 2 AET final design is out to bid currently. We'll be opening bids on August 30th. We did issue an extension to the bids, which the bids were originally out for around 28 days, or possibly a day shy of that, which is the state's standard bid period. However, we did have a request come in during the comment period from one of the contractors that was concerned that they would not be able to secure proper pricing in that amount of time. So, given the current economic state and the difficulty in trying to get quotes, we thought it was prudent to extend the bid period so that we can get the best bids possible and hopefully the greatest number of bids in the end. So we'll wait and see what happens when we open those bids. The investigation for the cable and anchorage dehumidification project, the initial 30% design is ongoing. We're expecting the 30% at the end of this month, along with a bid package to go out and do the airflow test on the cables, which will feed how we're going to proceed with the final design of the dehumidification project. Compression link work is ongoing, though you don't see anything yet. So far, the contractor, Aetna Bridge, has evaluated all the on-site equipment and materials that exist from prior compression link pin repairs. They've reconditioned them in using our own staff as much as possible, where we've had parts sandblasted, repainted, reconditioned, threads on some of the bolts chased and made ready to work in the field. They've ordered materials, and they've been working on design of quick deck components which would get installed along with a stair tower to give access to the pin hanger. The work that remains is to install the quick decking and jacking. We're in discussions with that right now. They're anticipating that they can begin the work second week of September. And where they'll get the quick decking installed, that will take roughly about a week, and then we'll be able to get down there, remove the pin nuts, and evaluate the condition. Right now, we stand at about $31,000 expended. I have had recent discussions between Aetna and WSP to estimate, do we have enough funds currently allocated to get to the next stage, which is to get the quick deck installed so we can get down and do the evaluation. We feel that we're there. However, I do anticipate coming to the board for authorization for additional funds, obviously prior to expending them at some point, possibly next month, so that we can continue this work. Some of the increased costs for the quick deck that they've asked to use, which we feel prudent because it can remain in place so that we can do the repair at a later date once we determine what needs to be done. So I'll keep you updated on that one. The next one, let's see, safety barrier feasibility study. which is for Mount Hope and Jamestown Verrazano. That's ongoing. We've got some initial work product that is a matrix of available barrier types that they've evaluated throughout the country. We've been working with the consultant to narrow that down to, as I mentioned before, they may need 2 or 3 ideas of barriers so that they can further their designs of the bridge, analysis of the bridge with the structural analysis, et cetera. And I think that's about it. Unless there's any questions.
I have a question, not on these, but on other projects. Do you have many contracts that are still open and active that Carty Corporation is working on for us?
No, we had, the barrier replacement on Pier
Yes.
5W.
Right.
We thankfully got through that successfully.
Great.
The work was completed. We had to work through some logistics, we needed some certified,
Gotcha, but
lead
they're done.
waivers, et cetera.
Yeah.
Yeah, they supplied everything we needed. We made final payment, closed it out, and that is all we
Great.
had.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Further discussion, questions? Okay. Next is federal funding, Protect Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Protect Grant, which is our next round of funding that's available to us for some of our projects. The grants were due last week. They were our submission for the balance of the funds that we need for dehumidification of the Mount Hope Bridge. That project was submitted. We are hopeful, again, while we await, by the way, debriefings from prior grant programs where we were not successful. But as you know, we have been quite successful already with 82.5 for the Pell, a $10 million congressionally directed funding to begin the Mount Hope Bridge dehumidification project. And also, so now we're looking for additional funds to continue with the dehumidification project. I mentioned, and I should emphasize continue, because we are doing the Mount Hope dehumidification project. It's not a question of if, we don't have an option. We have a 94-year-old bridge. We cannot let it go. We have not let it go. It's well underway. We already, as I said, have $10 million, but we're looking for the Protect Grant to provide us with some more money. And by the way, that dehumidification project, which as you know is relatively new technology, but it's proven technology, and that whole project has won the Providence Business News Government Sector Innovative Projects Award this year. So we won the award in '22 for going all electronic in the plaza during COVID, and now we have won the Government Sector Award for our dehumidification project on Mount Hope Bridge. Customer service, we continue to be very attentive to that, make certain that our customers are happy. We have now, many bill by plate customers as well as Easy Pass customers. We are still, our customer service hours are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 to 1. After this meeting, I will be talking to Jim Hummel on WPRO, and we'll also be talking on WADK, and we've gotten the word out that we're going to hold 2 Thursday nights again. We did this some months ago. Tomorrow night and next Thursday night, we will have our customer service walk-in center open 3:30 to 6:30, which seems like that's a great time to give some of our customers an opportunity to come in. Not everyone wants to go to AAA. Not everyone wants to use the internet. Not everyone wants to call to do their business. Some want to come in, and some have complicated transactions. We found that the last time we did this, it was small businesses who took advantage of it. Landscaping businesses, for instance, whose day might end at 3 o'clock, and they could come here late in the afternoon to transact their Easy Pass business. So I'm very grateful to our awesome customer service staff for being willing to staff this, and they will be here tomorrow afternoon and again next Thursday afternoon. You've already heard about the new systems, the back office system, the lane integration system, which will be up and running with Katie and Eric coordinating the engineering construction aspects of the new gantry with the actual software and reading of tolls under the new gantry when it's installed. And other than that, and the new EasyPass hub, which is the latest and greatest in terms of exchanging what we call files. And I always say that the EasyPass system is like the duck that looks like it's serenely gliding across the water, but underneath the water it's paddling like hell. And that is exactly what's happening. We're exchanging files with all these other states. EasyPass just admitted as a member the operators of the new Detroit, Canada bridge, the Gordie Howe Bridge, is becoming a member of the EasyPass system. So the system is growing and exchanging files to make certain that everyone is paid properly for their vehicles that have a Rhode Island EasyPass or a Georgia EasyPass or a Maine EasyPass. That hub is going to help things tremendously. So that's it in a nutshell. And our next board meeting is September 20th. I did talk to some of you, I hope all of you. I know that Director Gennaros had asked if it was possible that we could have a different time for the meeting. It seems like this is the most convenient time for the meetings, at least for now, but we can always revisit that in the future.
Didn't cost anything to ask the question.
What time did you want?
Afternoon.
Oh.
For now, I think it seemed that most schedules, it's been 8:30 in the morning for a very long time. That doesn't mean it has to stay that way, but at least for the time being, it seems like it was the most appropriate, the most convenient
I'm trying to
time.
get over my shyness, so.
We appreciate it.
Further discussion, questions? Hearing none, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.